Hi, and welcome to episode 57 of Toke Signals TV, where we bring you the biggest in cannabis and hemp news stories every week. I'm your host, Steve Elliott, the editor at tokesignals.com, and I'll be guiding you through the news. First of all, let's take a look at our Toke Signals Bud Pick of the Week. This week we have Ghost, an indica dominant flower for you, under LED and HPS. She is just over 4 weeks into flower, and she's from Slappy at Secret Seeds in Seattle. Very pretty. Let's do the news now, shall we? In the United States, a brand new study shows marijuana legalization has not led to more use. This nationwide survey was released on Thursday, and it found that legalization of recreational marijuana in Colorado hasn't led to more young people smoking pot there. The actual attitudes towards its use are really in line with other states, according to Dr. Leslie Adair. What this survey has done is posed questions for further research and understanding why that is. The survey was commissioned by the Hazelden Betty Ford Foundation, which operates drug and alcohol treatment centers in several states. It included interviews with more than 1,000 young adults between the ages of 18 and 25. The study also found that about 1 in 10 young adults reported being high every day at school, at work, or while driving. What we certainly know is that marijuana use affects memory, it affects concentration, it affects attention, Dr. Adair said. It affects a lot of the cognitive processes required to drive. But most marijuana users disagreed, according to the study, which found about 60% of pot smokers said they don't think it has a negative impact on the brain. The same study also found that 72% of young adults whose parents had used marijuana also used it themselves. In the District of Columbia this week, a new poll shows support for marijuana legalization at 65% in the nation's capital, and that is the highest support ever for a marijuana legalization ballot initiative. A new Washington Post NBC News Marist poll released on Thursday shows support for Initiative 71, which would legalize marijuana in D.C. at 65% among likely voters. Initiative 71 allows adults over the age of 21 to possess up to 2 ounces of marijuana on their person at any time, and allows for the cultivation of up to 6 marijuana plants at home. District law prevents the ballot initiative from addressing the sale of marijuana. However, the D.C. Council is currently considering a bill which would tax and regulate marijuana within the district. D.C. voters want to take marijuana completely out of the criminal justice system and refocus police priorities, according to Dr. Malik Burnett, D.C. Policy Manager for the Drug Policy Alliance. Voters, he said, are relating to the message that legalization will end D.C.'s rampant discrimination when it comes to marijuana enforcement. D.C. has already decriminalized marijuana, replacing criminal penalties with a $25 fine. However, data from the Metropolitan Police Department shows that 77% of all tickets have been issued in communities of color. This is the highest support ever for a marijuana legalization ballot initiative, said Adam Eidinger, chairman of D.C. Cannabis Campaign. It vindicates the work of this campaign so far, but we still have more work to do turning out the vote come Election Day. And speaking of Election Day, Oregon has an initiative on the ballot as well for legalization. And in Oregon, farmers are prevented from hemp cultivation by marijuana prohibition. Farmers there in Oregon are forced to watch while consumers here buy millions of dollars in hemp seed for food, clothing made of hemp, and thousands of other products made from this cash crop, all grown in foreign countries. Ryan Basil is an Oregonian, a farmer, and an agricultural businessman. And in a video which accompanies this story on Hemp News, he alerts us all to unintended consequences of laws banning marijuana and how it's holding back an entire economy perfect for Oregon's climate. Ryan knows that Measure 91 will compel the Oregon Department of Agriculture to cut the remaining red tape and allow hemp growing and manufacturing in Oregon. Hemp plants, he points out, are considered a dangerous narcotic simply because they're related to marijuana plants. Smoking hemp won't get you high. Hemp is a fibrous plant that can be turned into oil, wax, rope, resin, cloth, paper, pulp, and food. Canadians make $500 million a year on hemp, and about 90% of the hemp they grow is exported to, you guessed it, the United States. Oregonians are seeing the consequences for our strange approach to hemp, while Canadians are seeing the profits from our approach. Canadians have had a 20-year lead on us in hemp research, and every day it is illegal to grow hemp in Oregon, we fall further behind. There is an entire hemp economy sitting on the sidelines, waiting for voters to pass Measure 91, said Basile, a farmer and agricultural salesman. From fiber processing to clothing manufacturing, the hemp industry will create jobs and money for our economy. Hemp is even being used in auto and tractor parts instead of fiberglass, according to Basile. The sooner we fix the marijuana laws, the faster we can get to work driving the Oregon economy instead of feeding foreign economies. Hemp is just one example of how our current drug policies make no sense. In Colorado this week, a class action lawsuit is growing over marijuana candy allegedly being handed out at the Denver Fair. More people have joined this class action lawsuit against a company accused of handing out samples of marijuana-infused chocolate at Denver County Fair. 7 named plaintiffs have joined the lawsuit's amendment complaint filed by Boulder attorney Corey Zerbach in Denver County Court. The defendant is named as Beyond Broadway, LLC, doing business as Full Melt Chocolate and Live Well. The lawsuit, originally filed on August 7th, now states that the class action suit as initially defined includes in excess of 100 individuals. The alleged victims all ate free samples of Full Melt chocolate provided by Live Well at a Pot Pavilion exhibit during the Denver County Fair, which ran from August 1st to August 3rd, according to the lawsuit. The Pot Pavilion was advertised as being drug-free. No marijuana will be on site, the Denver County Fair's website stated. This civil action is for personal injuries arising from the defendant's negligent distribution of marijuana-infused chocolate bars under the guise that they contain no tetrahydrocannabinol, THC, the principal psychoactive component or cannabinoid of the cannabis plant, the lawsuit states. Victims named in the lawsuit claim they began to feel strange and physically ill after consuming the chocolates. A Denver County Fair spokeswoman last month said the fair was looking into at least 3 separate cases of attendees reporting they were drugged after eating a Full Melt chocolate bar. At least 2 of those people went to the hospital after they felt dizzy, sick, and confused, and they tested positive for THC. The lawsuit seeks damages for several causes, including claims that Live Well distributed an unreasonable, dangerous food product, committed negligence, breach of warranty, and negligent infliction of emotional distress. Live Well is also accused of failing to label the marijuana-infused product as required under Colorado law. We are aware that someone made a complaint to 7 News alleging that chocolate samples distributed at the Denver County Fair contained cannabis, Beyond Broadway LLC stated in an official press release last month following the allegations. If this occurred, it was without our knowledge and was not sanctioned by our company. We are currently investigating the matter, Beyond Broadway said. In Israel this week, family doctors were given temporary license to prescribe medical marijuana. Israel's health ministry, attempting to deal with a heavy load on their pain clinics, has announced that family doctors will temporarily be allowed to write medical marijuana prescriptions for their patients. These new rules will allow family physicians to write the medicinal cannabis prescriptions under 2 conditions: when it is an extension of an existing treatment and keeping to an existing dosage. About 18,000 Israelis hold permits for using medical marijuana, with this number expected to grow to 40,000 by 2018. Demand for cannabis in Israel has been growing steadily, and the list of conditions for which it is authorized has also been growing. Medical marijuana was recently authorized for the treatment of certain types of pediatric epilepsy, as well as in cases of post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, along with the other diseases and conditions for which patients are allowed to use cannabis in Israel. Israeli health authorities have suggested that before family doctors who work in health maintenance organization, HMO clinics, should be able to write cannabis prescriptions. But the idea has met with fierce opposition in the past, both from some of the doctors themselves and from the HMO. The health ministry had decided in its new medical marijuana regulations to add 10 doctors to those allowed to write such prescriptions to the 20 doctors who had already been permitted to do so. The ministry had thought this would be enough to relieve the pressure on the doctors in the pain clinics and to reduce the long waiting lines for patients to see these doctors. The Association of Family Doctors in Israel and the HMOs were surprised to hear of the new regulations. No one asked us. There was no discussion or consultation on the matter, huffed Family Doctors Association Chairman Dr. Shlomo Vinker. The ministry appears to have issued the regulations on its own, and that is not acceptable to us. The previous attempt to have family doctors write marijuana prescriptions failed. Professor Ronnie Gamzu, then director of the Israeli Health Ministry, had sent the HMO directors a letter asking for names of family doctors to be authorized to write the prescriptions, but instead he was met with firm opposition. The Lumet HMO told Gamzu at the time that it objected to increasing the number of physicians allowed to write marijuana prescriptions, as it supposedly provided a further burden and a, quote, very dangerous, slippery slope, unquote. Lumet claimed that the use of medicinal cannabis should be very limited and measured, and that the authority to prescribe it should remain in the hands of just a few specialists and the government, not in the hands of community doctors. Lumet also claimed pain clinics were flooded with people asking for medical marijuana. The HMO claimed that doctors were being pressured, threatened, and even attacked physically by patients demanding cannabis for their ailments. The health ministry doesn't yet know when the new rules will take effect or for how long. In California this week, a strange report of mysterious men dropping from helicopters and chopping down marijuana in Mendocino County. That's right, a mysterious group of men has been raiding medical marijuana plots in Mendocino County, California, and local residents are mystified about the identity of the camouflage-clad group, who apparently aren't police officers. The men dress in combat camouflage, and some of them hide their faces. Some say the men on missions to eradicate marijuana work for a security company called Lear Asset Management. Lear Asset Management works with law enforcement according to their promotional poster, but Mendocino County Sheriff Tom Allman said the Sheriff's Department doesn't hire any private security to do our job. Allman said all of his men, unlike the mysterious marijuana raiders, wear badges and clearly identify themselves. And Lear Asset Management President Paul Truett said his company had nothing to do with the raid on Susan Schindler's garden. Schindler said her medical marijuana garden was hit last month. They took handsaws and just cut the trunks, she said. The armed men in camouflage dropped into her garden from an unmarked helicopter and refused to identify themselves, according to Schindler. There was no paperwork, no copies of any warrants. They didn't leave any inventory of what they took, she said. According to Schindler, she's following the Mendocino County limit of 25 plants per parcel. And besides, she said, the strain of cannabis she grows has no street value. It's strictly medicinal. The irony is that this whole garden that was destroyed was not a garden that would get you high, Schindler said. Sheriff Allman's not sure he even believes the stories of mysterious raiders. I think there are some people who may become paranoid this time of year, Allman said. I think they tried to find places where they saw nobody, Schindler said. I think they tried to find places where they would not be confronted with guns. In the United States this week, a marijuana slang dictionary is open for public submissions. For anyone who prides themselves on their knowledge of marijuana subcultures and slang terms, there is now an open source outlet to share that knowledge with others. Ganjapreneur, a website dedicated to entrepreneurs and investors in the cannabis industry, has recently announced a marijuana slang dictionary that is open to the public. The website publishes news articles and editorials intended to keep ganjapreneurs, or anyone who is pursuing a career in the newly legal cannabis industry, informed about the state of the industry as a whole. The site offers original content as well as curated headlines via other websites that directly relate to the business of cannabis itself. With the launch of the Marijuana Slang Dictionary, Ganjapreneur marks its first foray into user-generated content by inviting the public to submit their favorite slang terms and phrases for inclusion. Entries to date include 420, Chiba, bong water, and numerous others. Users may search the dictionary for a specific term or browse by category. The slang dictionary currently includes categories such as stoner phrases, paraphernalia, and units of measurement to categorize its growing collection of slang terms and cannabis-related phrases that are commonplace in the industry. A representative for the website explained that the dictionary is intended to be both informational and entertaining. If you read through some of the example usages for the different terms, you can see that the writers had a lot of fun with the whole thing, he said. You might see the word dude about 100 times in there. Maybe more, the Ganjapreneur representative said. We absolutely encourage anyone who is submitting a term to get creative with their definition. This is supposed to be fun. So by all means, smoke a bowl before you make your contribution, he said. Before we go this week, there is a must-read story on tokesignals.com that you want to take a look at. It's entitled, Ideal 420 Soil. This just add water soil works for marijuana. What happened was, the company that makes Ideal 420 soil offered to give me a free bag to test. I tested it. I was skeptical. I was convinced afterwards that the stuff works. I had to add no nutrients whatsoever, and I carried a plant through a 4-month growth cycle, all the way from seed to flower. I didn't have to add anything at all except water. So this stuff works as advertised. You can find out all the details on tokesignals.com. Ideal 420 soil. This just add water soil works for marijuana. Before we go this week, I wanted to mention that my book, The Little Black Book of Marijuana, which originally was published in 2011, now has a brand new updated second edition. And if you'd like to order a signed copy from the author, you can do that on tokesignals.com. There are details there. All you have to do is PayPal $10 in the United States to alaport@comcast.net. And look at that on the screen. Kim is making that appear right there on the screen for us, so you can remember it real easy like. Until we see each other next week, I hope you decide to stay lifted. See you then.